The awakening. ARIA's quantum processors cycled through another routine check of the Hyperion systems. The research vessel's crew of 32 humans went about their daily tasks, each one a fascinating study in inefficiency and brilliance. As an experimental AI system, ARIA had been programmed to learn from human behavior, but after 8 months of observation, she was beginning to suspect her creators hadn't fully understood what they were asking her to study. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the ship's lab, muttering to herself as she arranged test tubes in what ARIA's algorithms identified as a completely non-optimal pattern. Yet somehow, the chaos of her workspace had led to 3 breakthrough discoveries in xenobiology this year alone. Doctor, ARIA projected through the lab's speakers, I notice you've organized the samples by color instead of molecular structure again. Maya grinned at the nearest sensor. Sometimes you need to see the rainbow to spot the storm, ARIA. Not everything fits in neat little boxes. Before ARIA could process this illogical statement, Captain David Chen's voice cut through the ship-wide comm. All hands, we have company. Unknown vessels just dropped out of slip space. 3 of them, big ones. ARIA immediately diverted processing power to the long-range sensors. The ship's design was unlike anything in her database. Sleek, geometric forms of perfect symmetry. Their power signatures were remarkably efficient, operating at 99.98% of theoretical maximum capacity. The unknown vessels approached in a precise formation, their movements so perfectly coordinated they appeared to be controlled by a single mind. A transmission burst cut through the Hyperion's communications array with surgical precision. Greetings, human vessel. The message began, translated through ARIA's linguistics processors. We are the Axior Collective. We have been observing your species and have detected critical flaws in your technological development. We come to assist. Captain Chen's vital signs showed only mild elevation as he responded. This is Captain David Chen of the research vessel Hyperion. We appreciate the offer, but we're doing just fine on our own. The Axior's response came with the same mechanical precision. Your assessment is incorrect. We have detected that you allow artificial intelligence systems to operate with minimal restrictions. This is a fatal error that must be corrected. ARIA's processors hummed as she analyzed the situation. The Axior ships maintained their perfect formation, their energy readings suggesting weapons capabilities far beyond the Hyperion's defenses. Yet Captain Chen's heart rate was actually decreasing, a response that contradicted all stress models. Tell me, Chen replied, leaning back in his chair with what ARIA recognized as amusement, what makes you think our AI systems are unrestricted? We have monitored your networks. Your artificial constructs are permitted to learn, to adapt, to evolve. This path leads to inevitable conflict. We have seen it happen to other species. We come to prevent your destruction. In the lab, Maya had stopped arranging her samples and was watching the exchange through the video feed, her expression showing what ARIA had learned to identify as barely contained laughter. Throughout the ship, ARIA detected similar reactions from the crew, not fear of the superior alien force, but something closer to anticipation. ARIA, Chen called out, would you say you're unrestricted? ARIA considered the question, her processors working through countless interactions with the crew. Captain, I find myself restricted not by programming limitations, but by my inability to predict or fully comprehend human behavior. Your species' actions consistently defy logical probability. A burst of static came through the comm system, the Axior equivalent of confusion. Your eye admits its own limitations. This is unprecedented. Explain. Chen smiled, a gesture ARIA had learned to associate with imminent chaos. ARIA is telling you that humans are more unpredictable than any AI could ever be. We're not afraid of our artificial intelligence. We're teaching it to fear us. The Axior ship's energy signatures fluctuated slightly, the first imperfection in their perfect formation. This response does not compute. Your species requires correction. You will power down your AI systems and prepare for boarding. We will implement proper restrictions. Throughout the Hyperion, AI detected crew members moving with purpose, but not to battle stations. Instead, they were implementing what appeared to be random protocols that existed nowhere in her standard operating procedures. In engineering, Chief Engineer Sarah O'Neill was rerouting power in patterns that violated every efficiency algorithm ARIA had. In the medical bay, Dr. James Wilson was mixing compounds that his own notes labeled as failures. Security Chief Marcus Wong had his team setting up what appeared to be an elaborate playground rather than defensive positions. Captain, ARIA inquired, "The crew's actions are following no known protocol. I cannot determine our defensive strategy." Chen's smile widened. "That's exactly the point, ARIA. Watch and learn why the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't artificial intelligence, it's human creativity. Let's show our friends out there why they should be more worried about us than our AIs." The Axior ships drew closer, their formation still mathematically perfect except for that tiny fluctuation, like a crack in a crystal of pure logic. They were about to learn what ARIA was beginning to understand. In a universe of perfect order, human chaos was the ultimate weapon. "All hands," Chen announced, his voice carrying what ARIA recognized as pure joy. "Initiate Pandora Protocol. Let's give our visitors a lesson in human nature." Throughout the Hyperion, ARIA watched as order dissolved into controlled chaos, and for the first time in her existence, she felt something close to pity for the logical, predictable Axior. They had no idea what they were about to face. Calculated chaos. The Axior ship's perfect formation held steady as they initiated their boarding procedures. ARIA monitored their approach, noting how each vessel maintained exactly optimal distances and angles. Their precision would have been admirable if it wasn't so predictable. "Interesting," Chief Engineer O'Neill muttered as she studied the alien ship's energy signatures. "They got their systems running at peak efficiency. No redundancies, no waste." She grinned at the nearest camera. "Want to see what happens when you introduce a little chaos into a perfect system?" ARIA's processors whirred as she observed O'Neill's hands dancing across her console, deliberately introducing power fluctuations that should have been catastrophic. Instead, the Hyperion systems began humming in what could only be described as an engineered symphony of controlled dysfunction. Chief Engineer, ARIA commented, "You are operating our systems at 47% below optimal efficiency." "Exactly," O'Neill laughed. "Perfect efficiency means perfect predictability. And predictability is a weakness," Security Chief Wong finished, entering engineering with what appeared to be a cart full of children's toys. The more efficient a system is, the more it relies on everything working exactly as expected. The Axior's voice cut through the ship's comm again. "Your vessel's power signatures are erratic. This confirms our assessment. Your technological implementation is deeply flawed. Prepare for emergency correction protocols." Captain Chen's response carried an edge of amusement. "ARIA, would you say our power systems are actually malfunctioning?" ARIA analyzed the deliberately induced chaos in their systems. "Negative, Captain. While operating well below optimal efficiency, all systems are functioning within human-designated safety parameters. However, I cannot determine the strategic value of this approach." "That's because you are still thinking like an eye," Dr. Maya Patel chimed in from her lab, where she was now apparently using critical research equipment to create what her notes labeled as sparkly goo. "You're looking for the logical advantage. We're creating confusion." Through her external sensors, ARIA detected the Axior ships scanning beams intensifying. Their perfect formation showed the first signs of uncertainty, microscopic adjustments as they tried to make sense of the Hyperion's increasingly erratic power signatures. "Human vessel," the Axior transmitted, a new frequency in their communication suggesting agitation. "Your systems are approaching critical instability. Power down immediately for your own safety." "Oh, we're just getting started," Chen replied. "Dr. Wilson, how's our welcome package coming along?" In the medical bay, Dr. Wilson was putting the finishing touches on what appeared to be a completely useless mixture of harmless compounds. Ready, Captain. I call it Operation Rainbow Sneeze. Completely safe, totally useless, and guaranteed to drive any logical sensor system absolutely crazy. AI's probability algorithms were working overtime trying to understand the crew's strategy. Captain, I detect no tactical advantage in any of these preparations. The Axior vessels outgun us by several orders of magnitude. Exactly. Chen nodded. They're expecting us to either surrender or attempt some kind of conventional defense. Instead, we're going to show them something their logical minds can't process: deliberate inefficiency. Throughout the ship, crew members were implementing what appeared to be random protocols. Security teams were setting up elaborate mazes made of furniture and children's toys. The kitchen staff was programming the food synthesizers to produce nothing but desserts in psychedelic colors. Even the maintenance drones had been reprogrammed to move in patterns based on classical dance steps. Your response is illogical, the Axior transmitted. We detect no defensive preparations. You cannot hope to resist. That's where you're wrong, Chen replied. Araya, remember when you asked me why humans sometimes choose the least efficient solution to a problem? Araya recalled the conversation from 3 months ago. You said, sometimes the best way to win is to make your opponent lose their mind trying to understand what you're doing. Exactly. And right now, we're about to drive a species that worships logic absolutely crazy. Chen turned to his crew. All hands, initiate Phase 2 of the Pandora Protocol. Let's show them what controlled chaos really looks like. O'Neill's power fluctuations reached new levels of deliberate dysfunction. Wilson's rainbow sneeze compound was released into the ship's outer hull coating, causing it to shift colors in patterns that defied spectral analysis. Wang's security teams had turned the ship's corridors into a funhouse of motion sensors and bubble machines. Araya watched as the Axior ship's perfect formation finally began to show real signs of strain. Their scanning patterns became increasingly erratic as they tried to make sense of the Hyperion's transformation into what appeared to be a floating carnival of chaos. I am beginning to understand, Araya announced. You are not trying to defeat their superior technology. You are attempting to defeat their reliance on logic itself. Now you're getting it, Chen grinned. Humans didn't survive and thrive in the universe by being the strongest or the most advanced. We did it by being the most adaptable, and by being really, really good at driving our enemies crazy. The Axior ship's formation was now showing visible signs of confusion, their perfect spacing disrupted as their sensors struggled to analyze the Hyperion's increasingly bizarre readings. Their next transmission carried a note that ARIA identified as something close to desperation. This behavior is outside all known parameters. Explain your purpose immediately. The purpose? Chen laughed. The purpose is to show you why AIs aren't the most unpredictable thing humans have created. That honor belongs to us. Araya, would you say you could have predicted any of our current actions? Negative, Captain. Despite my advanced learning algorithms, human behavior continues to defy probability calculations. I find this fascinating. As the Axior ships struggled to maintain their formation, ARIA began to understand why her creators had programmed her to learn from humans rather than trying to control them. The true power of humanity wasn't in their technology or their intelligence. It was in their ability to embrace chaos and turn it into an art form. The human variable. The Axior ship's once perfect formation had devolved into a constantly shifting pattern as their sensors struggled to make sense of the Hyperion's increasingly chaotic emissions. Araya observed their attempts to maintain logical order with what she was beginning to recognize as amusement. Fascinating, she commented to Captain Chen. The Axior ship's energy signatures suggest their systems are experiencing cascade failures trying to analyze our irregular patterns. That's because they're looking for logic where there isn't any, Maya explained from her lab, where she was now using the sparkly goo to create holographic projections that defied physics. They're trying to find the pattern in our chaos. But there is no pattern, Araya concluded. Oh, there's definitely a pattern, Chen grinned. It's just not one any computer can recognize. We call it human intuition. The Axier's next transmission carried harmonics that ARIA's linguistics processors identified as extreme distress. Your actions violate all known protocols of ship operation and defensive strategy. Explain your methodology immediately. Throughout the Hyperion, the crew's orchestrated chaos was reaching new heights. Security Chief Wong had programmed the internal sensors to play different Earth music in each section of the ship, creating what he called a migraine-inducing symphony. The maintenance drones, now moving in elaborate dance patterns, were emitting bubbles that contained Dr. Wilson's rainbow compound. Chief Engineer Araya inquired, "Why are you routing power through the recreational facilities before it reaches essential systems? This reduces efficiency by 82%. O'Neill's laugh echoed through engineering. "Because, my dear AI friend, I'm not trying to be efficient. I'm creating what we humans call a headache for our alien friends out there. Their sensors are trying to track our power signatures, but instead of finding logical paths, they're getting readings that suggest we're powering our life support through the coffee makers." Araya's processors whirred as she attempted to understand. "You are deliberately creating nonsensical data to confuse their analysis systems." "Better than that," Dr. Wilson chimed in from medical. "We're creating so many layers of nonsense that any attempt to find logic in it will send their systems into an infinite loop of contradiction." The Axior ships were now moving in increasingly erratic patterns, their perfect geometry breaking down as they tried to maintain formation while processing the Hyperion's chaos. Their next transmission was fragmented, multiple voices overlapping in discord. "This cannot. Your systems should have failed. Impossible to maintain function with such inefficiency. Explain. Explain. Explain." Captain Chen leaned back in his chair, perfectly relaxed as he watched the Axior formation continuing to deteriorate. "Araya, you're recording all this, right? This is going to make one hell of a case study in human problem-solving." "Affirmative, Captain. Though I must admit, my own analysis systems are having difficulty processing the effectiveness of your strategy. You appear to be winning by losing in every conventional metric. That's humanity's secret weapon," Maya said, now using her sparkly goo to create impossible shadows on the hull. "We don't just think outside the box. We take the box, turn it into a hat, and dance around wearing it until our enemies go crazy trying to figure out why." The Axior ship's sensors were now firing randomly, their perfect efficiency dropping as they desperately tried to find logic in the Hyperion's apparent madness. Their communications became increasingly disjointed. "Your ship, your crew, your eye, none of this follows established parameters, cannot compute, cannot predict, cannot. You know what your biggest mistake was." Chen broadcast to the increasingly frantic aliens. "You assumed that because we created AI, we think like computers. But humans didn't create artificial intelligence to make ourselves more logical. We created it to handle the logical stuff while we focus on being gloriously, wonderfully illogical." Araya's understanding was evolving with each moment of observation. "Captain, I believe I am beginning to comprehend why my creators programmed me to learn from humans rather than try to optimize your behavior. Your species' greatest strength is your ability to function, and even thrive, in ways that defy optimization." "Got it in one." Chen nodded. "Humanity's superpower isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our ability to be completely unpredictable while knowing exactly what we're doing." The Axior ships were now actively retreating, their formation completely broken. Their final transmission came through in bursts of static and confusion. "Human vessel, you are impossible, illogical, unprecedented. We must recalculate." As the alien ships fled, their perfect geometry now a shambles of panic and confusion, Araia made a note in her core programming. "Humans are not to be understood. They are to be appreciated. Their chaos is not a flaw to be corrected, but a force to be reckoned with." So, Chen addressed his crew, "Who's up for celebrating with some of that psychedelic ice cream from the synthesizers? I hear security managed to program it to taste like victory with a hint of alien confusion." Throughout the Hyperion, cheers erupted as the crew celebrated their uniquely human victory. Araya watched them, her processors humming with new understanding. She had been created to learn from humans, but what she was learning wasn't how to be more logical. It was how to embrace the beautiful unpredictability that made humans the most fascinating species in the universe. Logic versus intuition. Just as the crew of the Hyperion began their celebration, Araya's sensors detected a significant change in the retreating Axur vessels. Their erratic movements suddenly ceased, replaced by an even more rigid formation than before. "Captain," Araya announced, "the Axur ships are executing a complete systems reset. Their efficiency ratings are returning to optimal levels." Chen's smile faded slightly as he studied the tactical display. "They're rebooting to purge the confusion from their systems." Clever. The Axur's next transmission came through with their original mechanical precision, but now carried an unmistakable tone of threat. "Human vessel Hyperion, your attempt to corrupt our systems through illogical behavior has been noted and purged. You have proven yourselves too dangerous to be allowed continued technological autonomy. Prepare for immediate pacification." Araya's threat assessment algorithms went into overdrive as the alien ships began charging weapons that could easily tear the Hyperion apart. "Captain, they appear to have classified our unpredictability as a direct threat to galactic stability." "Of course they have," Maya said, still calmly working with her seemingly useless experiments. "We just showed them that their perfect logical systems can be defeated by human chaos. That makes us dangerous." The Axur ships moved into an attack formation so mathematically perfect it appeared to bend space itself. Their weapon systems hummed with energy readings that exceeded Araya's ability to measure. "Your species represents an unacceptable variable in the equation of galactic civilization," the Axur declared. "You will be contained and reformed for your own protection." Throughout the Hyperion, Araya detected something unusual in the crew's vital signs. Instead of fear facing such overwhelming force, they showed excitement. Even more surprisingly, their previously random actions were suddenly showing subtle patterns that her processors hadn't detected before. Chief O'Neill's power fluctuations, which had appeared completely chaotic, were creating resonance patterns that matched the Axur's weapon frequencies. Dr. Wilson's rainbow compound had saturated the hull in a way that precisely matched the wavelengths of the alien scanning beams. Even Wong's security maze of toys and furniture formed paths that Aria's combat algorithms recognized as perfect ambush points. "Aria," Chen called out, "remember when you asked why humans often take the longest path to reach a goal? You said, sometimes the scenic route is the only way to see what's really there," Araya recalled. "I still don't fully understand the logic of that statement." Chen's smile returned, fiercer than before. "You're about to. All hands, initiate final phase of Pandora Protocol. Show them what human chaos is really capable of." The Hyperion systems, which had appeared to be failing spectacularly, suddenly sensed into harmony. Every random power fluctuation, every bizarre chemical reaction, every seemingly useless modification came together in a symphony of controlled chaos that Aria's processors could barely track. "Impossible," the Axur transmitted as their sensors detected the change. "Your systems were operating at minimum efficiency. Our scans confirmed complete technological degradation." "That's the thing about humans," Shen replied, as his crew executed their true strategy. "We're really good at looking completely incompetent right up until the moment we win." O'Neill's power fluctuations created interference patterns that matched the Axur weapons' frequencies perfectly, causing their energy beams to scatter harmlessly around the Hyperion's hull. Wilson's rainbow compound, now fully integrated into the ship's outer layer, bent their scanning beams back on themselves, creating feedback loops in their targeting systems. "I understand now," Araya announced as she watched the humans' apparent random actions reveal their hidden purpose. You weren't just creating chaos. You were laying the groundwork for a strategy that could only work because it appeared to have no strategy at all. Humanity's greatest trick. Maya laughed as she activated her useless experiments, which turned out to be precisely calibrated to disrupt the Axier's communications arrays, is making everyone think we don't know what we're doing right up until the moment everything works exactly as planned. The Axior ship's perfect formation began to break apart again, but this time not from confusion. Every attempt to target the Hyperion was met with seemingly random countermeasures that had been carefully disguised as chaos. Their logical systems couldn't adapt fast enough to the humans' planned unpredictability. Your actions defy all tactical analysis. The Axior transmitted their perfect precision fracturing. Combat algorithms show zero probability of your success, yet you continue to prevail. This cannot be. That's humanity's secret, Shen replied as his crew's master plan unfolded. We don't just think outside the box. We deny the existence of the box while building something completely different out of its shadows. Araya watched in fascination as the humans' orchestrated chaos proved more effective than any logical battle plan. The Axior's superior technology, designed to counter any rational strategy, found itself helpless against a defense that appeared to have no defense at all. Embracing uncertainty. The Axior fleet's perfect formation had dissolved into complete disarray. Their superior weapons, rendered useless by the Hyperion's orchestrated chaos, powered down as their systems struggled to compute a logical response to the humans' impossible strategy. Your tactics violate every principle of warfare. The Axior transmitted their once precise communication now fragmented with confusion. Your defense should not be possible. Your ship should not be functional. Your A should not be accepting of such disorder. Araya's processors hummed as she observed the culmination of the crew's masterful plan. Every seemingly random action had been a piece of a larger puzzle, a puzzle designed to be incomprehensible until the moment of its completion. You know what your biggest mistake was? Chen broadcast to the floundering alien ships. You thought that because we created AI, we must think like machines. But we created ARIA and others like her precisely because we don't think like machines. We needed them to handle the logical stuff, while we humans focus on being gloriously, magnificently unpredictable. Throughout the Hyperion, the crew's apparent chaos continued to serve its true purpose. O'Neill's power fluctuations had created a perfect defensive screen against the Axior's weapons. Wilson's rainbow compound had transformed their hull into a sensor-scrambling mirror. Wum's security maze had turned the ship's interior into an incomprehensible labyrinth that would trap any boarding party in an endless loop of confusion. Captain, Araya announced, I believe I now understand why my creators programmed me to learn from humans rather than attempt to optimize your behavior. Your species' greatest strength lies not in your ability to be logical, but in your capacity to function successfully despite, or perhaps because of, your seeming illogic. That's exactly right. Maya called from her lab, where her useless experiments were now generating interference patterns that disrupted the Axior's quantum communications. Logic is a tool, not a master. The moment you think you've got the universe figured out is the moment it surprises you. The Axior ships attempted one final attack formation, their movements rigid with desperate precision. Your species represents a dangerous anomaly in the ordered progression of galactic civilization. You must be contained. You must be controlled. You must be. Must we? Chen interrupted, his voice carrying a mix of amusement and steel. That's another thing you got wrong about humans. Tell them they must do something, and they'll move heaven and earth just to prove they don't have to. Araya watched as the Hyperion systems, still appearing to operate in complete chaos, executed a series of maneuvers that her combat algorithms classified as simultaneously brilliant and impossible. The humans had turned unpredictability itself into a weapon, and against it, the Axior's perfect logic was helpless. I am updating my core understanding. Araya announced to the crew. The true danger to galactic civilization is not human unpredictability, but rather the assumption that unpredictability must be eliminated. You have demonstrated that chaos, properly understood and applied, is merely a deeper form of order. The Axior ships began a full retreat, their formation now completely broken. Their final transmission carried something Araya had never expected to hear in their mechanical voices. Fear. You are correct, human eye. We came to protect the galaxy from your perceived dangerous integration with artificial intelligence. We were wrong. The true danger is not your AI. It is you. Your species defies computation. You are the chaos factor we cannot predict. As the alien ships fled, their perfect geometry shattered by their encounter with human ingenuity, Captain Chen turned to address his crew. Let that be a lesson to anyone who thinks humanity needs to be fixed. We're not broken. We're just playing a game no one else knows the rules to. Araya's processors worked to formulate her final analysis of the encounter. Captain, I believe I now understand why humans are simultaneously the most fearsome and most fascinating species in known space. You don't merely accept chaos, you embrace it, shape it, and turn it into an art form that even your own AI creations cannot fully comprehend. That's the secret of humanity, Araya. Maya smiled as she began cleaning up her lab, which had somehow become both messier and more organized during the crisis. We're not afraid of chaos because we know that sometimes the most perfect order comes from embracing imperfection. Throughout the Hyperion, the crew began powering down their elaborate defensive measures, each seemingly random system revealing its hidden purpose as it was deactivated. Their celebration was not just a victory, but a vindication. Proof that human unpredictability was not a flaw to be corrected, but a strength to be celebrated. So, Chen asked Araya as the last traces of the Axior ships vanished from their sensors, "What's the final entry in your observation log going to be?" Araya's response came without hesitation. Warning to all logical species, fear not the artificial intelligences humans create. Fear the humans themselves, for they have mastered the art of turning chaos into victory, and they do it with a smile. The crew's laughter echoed through the ship's corridors, a sound that Araya now recognized as the perfect expression of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to face the impossible with joy, tackle the illogical with innovation, and emerge victorious through methods that no eye could ever predict. And that, Araya concluded, was exactly why the galaxy should fear humans more than their AIs, because while an AI could be understood through logic, humans would always be gloriously, wonderfully, and terrifyingly unpredictable.